Now, here's the hosts of Top Story, Kelly Klass and Jill Skeen.
Good morning and welcome to Top Story. 7360300 is the number to call. Good morning, Jill.
Good morning, Kelly.
I think I've pressed all the buttons and everything should be fine for a while. Couple of hours.
And our video's on.
Our video's on, being recorded.
And it's Tuesday.
It is. Tuesday.
Well, that was the worst
Everybody
song
loves
ever.
Tuesday.
That was the worst song ever. Anyway.
Hey, coming up, we have Steve Millington with the Twin Falls Republicans. He will be our only guest today. Going to talk about the Supreme Court non-decision yesterday.
Well, they said they just
not
they
refusing to
take
take the case of the gay marriage issue. And what does that mean for Idaho? A lot of people have been asking that question. And we have some information here for you from the Associated Press and the staff of the Idaho Statesman newspaper that may clarify some of that.
And I think the 5 states where the state put a kibosh on it till they heard, I think now they're allowed to get married. I think it was Virginia and Utah.
Yeah, well, it's kind of there's a couple of articles about it today in the Statesman, so we'll be able to go over that and kind of get some information.
They already married someone in Virginia.
Well, it doesn't surprise me.
Right away. Good for them. I thought conservatives were for family values, marriage, family values. There you go.
Well, hey, if they want to, here we go again. I believe, and I always will believe, marriage is between a man and a woman. End of story. So if they want civil unions or whatever, then that's their business. But as far as marriage, I just don't see it happening. But you know what?
It is happening.
Apparently it is.
It's happening.
And my opinion means absolutely nothing. And that's just the way I feel. I will never change my opinion. And as America continues to go into the abyss of the quagmire, then, hey, there's nothing I can do about it now.
It's not going into the abyss.
But as far as, let's see, then also coming up, we're going to be talking about City Hall.
Yeah.
Should it be in downtown? Should it be in the old Banner Building?
Should be on Main Street.
Yeah.
Your Main Street. City Hall.
I don't know.
On Main Street.
And we'll talk about that in the 9 o'clock
talk about
hour.
that.
So no sense getting started on it now.
Don't start me.
We do have a little bit of other news, and this one is kind of interesting to me. The 2014 Nobel Prize in Physics was awarded on Tuesday to Isamu Akasaki, Hiroshi Amano, and Shuji Nakamura. Now, you probably don't know these fellas. It's for the invention.
They're common names. I don't know why you don't.
I know. Yeah. In English, that is John Smith.
Jane Doe.
Yeah,
whatever.
But anyway, that was for the invention of efficient blue light-emitting diodes.
Yeah.
You might think, what in the world is that? That means nothing to me. Well, they have enabled bright and energy-saving white light sources. Now, if you'll notice, on most of the new cars and trucks nowadays, they don't have light bulbs anymore. They have LEDs, especially for the rear lights and such. And these blue light-emitting diodes can, let me just show you here. With the advent of the LED lamps, humanity now has longer-lasting and more efficient light sources. Using the same amount of energy, LED bulbs produce 4 times the light of a fluorescent bulb and nearly 20 times the light of a standard incandescent bulb, using the same energy.
It's amazing.
So, you'll notice these little flashlights that you buy now. They're much more durable than they used to be. It used to be you'd have a flashlight with the old incandescent bulb and you'd drop it while it was on, and generally the bulb would burn out.
Right.
Well, with these new light-emitting and the batteries wouldn't last very long. With the new light-emitting diodes, now you have one little light in there, and you can drop it, and it doesn't seem to make any difference, and the batteries last forever, it seems
forever.
Like. That is technology. That's one case where technology is going to save us instead of kill us.
Yeah, so anyway, you think about it. You don't think, actually people don't think about who created it.
No.
You know what I mean? You don't think about all this stuff that someone sat down and thought, wow, wouldn't that be cool if?
All the technology that we use in our smartphones and our computers and all of that kind of stuff, most people know that Thomas Edison invented the incandescent light bulb.
That's right.
Does anybody know who invented the blue LED bulb? No.
Well, And if you can pronounce their names, we do now know.
Yeah.
So congratulations.
So,
I
absolutely.
think that's awesome.
Absolutely. American swimmer, and I guess I remember several years ago when Michael Phelps was an up-and-comer, I indicated to you listeners that your kids should look up to this guy because this was a real American hero. Well, I guess I have to apologize now. American swimmer Michael Phelps, the most decorated Olympian of all time, was suspended for 6 months by USA Swimming on Monday following his recent arrest on a drunken driving charge. Phelps, who recently returned to top-level competition after a 2-year retirement, will also not be allowed to represent the United States at the 2015 FINA World Swimming Championships in Russia next August, according to USA Swimming, which said in a statement. So there you go. So here's another guy who had the world literally by the tail.
Well, this was his second one.
I know.
It happened a few years ago. When did it happen?
2004.
2004, and it was the I'm sorry, and I think didn't he get suspended back then?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I take full responsibility. Blah, blah, blah. Please pass me another beer.
So now, 10 years later, he has a second one, but he's going into rehab.
Yeah.
I usually think they'd be closer, but you know what? I don't think they have enough. I know they practice and stuff, but I think when he retired a couple years ago, like they didn't really have anything to do. Like he endorses things, but do you really have a job that you go to? You get into trouble. He also had smoked pot.
I guess
Remember, he got
swim.
caught smoking a bong. Well, at some point, yeah. But I mean, every day of your life when you're training and that's all you do, and then you stop. Then they don't really know what to do.
Yeah.
It's like a professional athlete.
I don't know why people self-destruct like that. I just don't.
Too much time on their hands?
I guess so. Maybe so. Maybe they didn't develop any hobbies. And actually,
all he did was
if you're
been
an Olympic
in a swimming
swimmer,
pool for like 17 years of his life.
If you're an Olympic swimmer, you don't really have time to develop hobbies. But I tell you what, when you stop swimming and you have all these endorsements and all this fame and fortune, you know what? You can take up another hobby. You can develop a hobby. I don't understand that. I have more hobbies than I have time for.
But I just think, like, when you've already had one, he got caught smoking a bong. I mean, like, at some point, because your endorsers will drop you. And and you lose a lot of money that way. And I don't know. And plus, you lose the sport that you love. That's your whole purpose right now, Michael, is swimming. I don't know. Sad. Well, I hope he solves his issue.
And Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper,
this is interesting,
a vocal opponent of his state's legalization of marijuana, said yesterday that recreational marijuana laws are reckless.
Reckless.
Yep. Hickenlooper was asked during a gubernatorial debate about other state governors who may be considering legalizing marijuana. He said, "I would view it as reckless before we see what the consequences are in Colorado." Hickenlooper said his Republican challenger, Bob Beauprez, agreed with the reckless characterization. Hickenlooper later expanded on Colorado's legalization, saying, "I think for us to do that without having all the data, there's not enough data, and to a certain extent, you could say it was reckless."
The interesting thing, too, is that Hickenlooper was a beer brewer before becoming governor. So it's kind of interesting. So he made his fortune selling alcoholic beverages. And at one point that was, not legal. So it's kind of interesting. So you wonder, is it because maybe it's taking away from alcoholic beverages? I don't know. Would you smoke pot instead of drink beer? I don't know. I've never smoked pot, so I don't know.
I don't know. You could always go into the potato chip business and make a fortune, probably. Potato chips and marijuana,
But that one's kind of interesting, and you wonder, as more states, like, why really was he saying that? Have they had problems?
Okay. Mr. Millington is behind you.
Why can't he just wait 5 minutes?
I don't know. So you don't want him to come in right now?
Fine, just open the door. I mean, fine. Seriously. Oy, Gewalt.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Oh, for gosh sakes.
Cool it down, Jill. Cool it down just a little bit.
You know what? You sit in this chair sometime and then you tell me, because everyone's at my back. You get to see everything and I don't. So
okay, let's do that.
You cool it down.
That would be fun.
Yeah, let me at that seat for 1 second.
Okay, let's do it now.
Yeah. I don't know how to work the buttons.
So what? That doesn't make any difference.
Why don't you teach me how to work the buttons? And I will, believe me, and we'll switch places.
Okay, so now the Supreme Court has well, let me just say it from the AP. The Supreme Court's surprising move to pass on deciding whether state prohibitions on same-sex marriage violate the U.S. Constitution likely reflects two things about the justices: a natural inclination for incremental change and a worry on the part of conservatives that the battle for now appears lost. Many observers of the court were stunned that justices passed up reviewing lower court decisions that overturned prohibitions on same-sex marriage in 5 states, delaying a decision that would answer the question for the nation. Now, Idaho, which has had an appeal in at the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and in fact has presented its case on September 8th, is awaiting a decision still from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. So the question is, okay, what does this mean for Idaho? And according to the AP, nothing immediately. The fate of Idaho's same-sex marriage ban remains before the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco. In May, U.S. Magistrate Judge Candy Dale struck down Idaho's 2006 constitutional amendment prohibiting same-sex marriage. The state appealed Dale's ruling. The Ninth Circuit kept the ban in place pending an appeals court decision. On September 8th, a 3-judge panel heard Idaho's case. It could issue an opinion at any time. If the Ninth Circuit Court upholds Dale's decision, which I'm thinking it probably will, same-sex marriage would become legal in Idaho unless the Supreme Court one day rules otherwise. As with the Ninth Circuit, judges in Cincinnati's 6th Circuit are weighing pro-gay marriage rulings in Kentucky, Michigan, Ohio, and Tennessee. Those judges appeared more likely to rule in favor of state bans than do the Ninth Circuit judges. The Sixth Circuit ruling upholding the bans could prompt the Supreme Court to step in. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg recently suggested the court might refrain from acting until an appeals court created the kind of split that typically triggers Supreme Court review, which is an interesting observation because up until now, I think most all of them have said that a gay marriage ban is illegal.
Right,
so
it's
if the Sixth Circuit,
unconstitutional.
and so the Supreme Court really has no decision to make. Because
they've all agreed.
Because the lower courts have all agreed.
It's unconstitutional. The thing of it is that's disconcerting. That would be nice if the Supreme Court came out and said there's a nationwide rule. Is I think they said there's like 2 million children that are part of gay couples. And if something happened, if you were on vacation, if you something happened to your kid and you're not considered their parent, because you happen to be in one of these relationships where they don't recognize marriage. I mean, these kids are the ones who are in a state as well for legal issues, and it would be nice if they came out and said, fine, it's all unconstitutional.
But these issues with the children were brought about under illegal circumstances.
It's not illegal. It's unconstitutional.
And now, at the time that it was, though, it was illegal. It was considered illegal
at the time. So what happens
to
these kids?
So then so now that we're in this predicament, it's, oh, well, gosh, we have no choice but to switch this. It's for the children, even though it might have been considered illegal ahead of time. See,
it's not
that's
illegal.
That's the way the liberals work. That's just the way they work.
What about these kids?
7360300 is the number to call here this morning on Top Story. The folks at Clearwater Power Equipment want you to know they've got chainsaws, they've got leaf blowers, and they've got winter storage for your big mower. My big mower. I got a Husqvarna, and they carry Husqvarna service and sales. I've got a Husqvarna riding mower. So what am I going to do with it this winter? I might have to have them store it for me.
Could be a snowman. I
got some trees that need trimmed up. What do I do about that? I get an Echo chainsaw from Clearwater Power Equipment. I've got leaves all over the place. What do I do with those? I get a Echo leaf blower from Clearwater Power Equipment. They are here to clear your life of obstacles. Hey, I think that's pretty good, don't you? Give them a call, 734-7767.
Kelly's his biggest fan.
They're on the in the former General Building Supply store at 252 Washington Street. They sell Husqvarna and Echo, service and sales. That's all they do, so they know what they are talking about. So give them a call or stop by and tell them that Kelly and Jill sent you. So the question that I've heard come up is, well, then now can Idaho take back the lawsuit or take back this appeal?
Well, it's already,
I don't know.
I don't know. They're deliberating now.
Yeah, and they're deliberating now. They should have a decision soon. I would think at this point, even to pull it back, is kind of a moot point because they are probably kind of curious just to see what the court's going to say now that all the work has been done.
Well, don't you think
So-
the court would probably say, geez, the Supreme Court isn't taking it up because, we're just going to let the lower court ruling stand? Like, don't you think it would influence them in some way?
Actually, that is a good point, and that could very well happen. They may, although you wouldn't think that they should, because the law is supposed to be interpreted regardless of outside influences, but it could very well have, although there's only 3 of them, so if one of them switches one way or the other, it changes the whole deal. But
anyway, I guess we'll find out, and hopefully Idaho will, well, we already spent the money on the lawsuit, so
well,
there you go.
Yeah, I don't know.
How much did that cost us, the Idaho? And you have to wonder, why did we even fight it to begin with? You saw the trend. You saw what was happening across the country. You saw all these decisions being made. There was some that said this was constitutional, some that said it wasn't. They all have said unconstitutional, which is why the Supreme Court didn't take it up. Because why take it up when everyone's saying, yeah, it's unconstitutional, which it is. Because if you fill in the word gay for black, that was unconstitutional in 1967. Wasn't that when the Loving case was? So, it's hard to sit there and say it's okay to discriminate against another group just because, well, you want to, or you don't agree with their lifestyle. But a lot of people didn't agree with blacks and whites marrying, and look how that turned out.
The issue just comes down to me anyway. The issue of marriage, can it be between anyone, or is it just between a man and a woman? And
well,
biologically
not.
speaking, and religiously speaking, and even if I don't mention the religious part of it, just biologically speaking, marriage can only be between a man and a woman. It only makes sense. You can't have it between 2 men and 2 women. That would be more like a civil union.
But we are
if
having
they want to
marriages.
have a civil union, I know, but
it's too late. You can't put the genie back in the bottle.
See, that's just
there
it.
are states that allow marriage.
We'll go ahead and break the law, and
we
then
are breaking the law.
eventually they'll have to make it legal because there's just so many that have broken the law. It's just easier to make it legal.
It's not breaking the law. It's unconstitutional.
That's the way they work.
They work the way they work. It's unconstitutional. Actually, it was the Massachusetts was the first one to sue the federal government for the DOMA laws. And you know what? It's been legal for a lot of years in many states. It's not unconstitutional. It's not against the law. And marriage is redefined now.
It just doesn't make sense.
It does make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
And the
marriage
kids
between
and the
anything
kids,
other than a man and a woman
logically
does not make sense.
Then you know what? For you, it's a good thing you married a woman.
7360300, top story. You're on the air.
Jill, what color is the sky?
Why? Are you going to say it's what? It's
My
blue.
point is you would argue with anything about anything.
I would not. I think it's discrimination. I don't know how anyone couldn't. How could you not say it's not discrimination? Is he no longer on the line?
No, he's not on the line.
I mean, seriously, it's not. It's arguing for equal rights.
This is what happens when people lose sight of common sense. Look what happened to Rome.
It's not common sense.
When Rome started doing all this kind of stuff, Rome fell. What's going to happen to America? America is going to fall.
You know what?
Mark my words.
Gay marriage has been legal for how many years?
That's the way it is.
Nothing has fallen, but it's discrimination. And when you don't get the Social Security benefits, when you don't get insurance benefits, when you can't visit your spouse, when you can be fired in this state of Idaho for just being gay, that is not right. That is discrimination. Fill in the word gay for black, for Jew,
but
for
we're
Mormon.
talking about marriage now. I'm not saying some of it isn't discriminatory.
It
but
is
I'm talking about
discriminatory.
marriage. Marriage can only be between a man and a woman. That's the only logical thing that works.
Some people said it could only be between 2 white people and not a black person and a white person. That is discrimination, whether you like it or not.
That is discrimination.
Oh, but gay isn't.
That's right. It's not.
This is unconstitutional.
Because marriage is between a male and a female.
Read the
that's
Constitution.
The way nature made it.
Equal rights
but
for
some
equal
people just
for
refuse
all.
to see it that way. And you mark my words, we're headed down,
We
folks.
aren't heading
we'll
down
be right
anywhere.
back with Steve Millington with the Twin Falls Republicans. 7360300 is the number to call here this morning on Top Story. And guess what?
The Democrats' secular progressive move, political correctness is killing us too. They want to take the money from the hard-working man and give it to the lazy folks that don't give a damn. Democrats and liberals, shame on you. Don't punish us all, just to please a few. You're holding people back while we're picking up the slack, and that's why we can't vote for a Democrat. Oh no.
Well, that always means that we have Steve Millington with us from the Twin Falls Republicans. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning.
Good
How's
morning.
everything going?
Hey, we're doing great.
Did you see the debate last night, Secretary of State?
Oh, no, I didn't.
What?
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I think
I forgot
they're
all about
re-showing
it.
it tonight. They're
And-
taping. I mean, I have it taped for tonight.
I think you're right, Jill. There is a
Yeah.
rebroadcast of that debate tonight, so you can. Is it on KTVB? I think.
It might have been. I don't know. I just looked for Idaho debates and just taped all of them.
So anyway, it'll be there, and you know, I don't have well, I do have an excuse, a reason, I guess. I was outside working and fussing, and it didn't get dark till about, I don't know, 7:30 or something when I finally came in from outside, and I kind of watched the sunset, and it was fantastic, clear
Yeah.
sky, just unreal.
This is the best weather of the year, right
You know,
Beautiful.
it really is. The
Yeah.
month of October is just great, and
We have
by
to
the-
wait 11 months
Yeah,
just
we
for
get-
the one great month.
Well, the thing that makes October so nice, well, and this is extraordinary this year because we've got really nice warm temperatures.
Yes. Yes,
we're
we
way,
It was
do.
beautiful
we're
in the
way above
afternoon.
average, if I remember.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was outside working, and when I come in, I went and cleaned up and squared away and got a bite to eat, and didn't watch much television. Didn't even think about turning it on.
Yeah.
Some Republican
well,
you are, huh?
Yeah, well, you know, I was just an engaged, busy citizen.
So we got Republican Lawrence Denny, and we got Democrat Holly Woodings running for Secretary of State.
Yes.
Holly Woodings has been in the legislature. She's the Democrat. She's been in the legislature for one term.
I think that's right.
We have Lawrence Denny, who's the former Speaker of the House.
Right.
And has quite a lot of history. I think he's kind of known as pretty much an ultra right-winger among the Idaho Republicans. And running for Secretary of State seems like, well, Benny Sursa, Pete Senarusa, they kind of made it a nonpartisan type office.
Very, very non-political.
Yeah, yeah. Do you
'Cause
think it's going to work with Lawrence Denny if he should be elected?
Because he left under, I mean, he was no longer speaker under, so he was asked to leave, wasn't he?
He
Yeah.
was replaced
Yes.
by Scott Bedke.
Right, right.
Among other things that he did, but anyway.
It'll be interesting whether or not Denny can take on the, quote, non-political characteristics of Usursa and Senarusa. He'd have to make a pretty significant change, I think, in his approach. But the Secretary of State's job is almost a non-political type thing.
Well.
You don't directly supervise the election process. You see to it that state rules, state law, is implemented and carried out by the county clerks.
but you can
and
change
they
those
report-
things.
They report that information back to the Secretary of State for consolidation and issuing state records, but the county clerks basically take care of the election. The Secretary of State's office interprets the legislative intent and says this is how the election process should be done, and here we go.
But
Now,
but,
they
but
make-
Steve, you're seeing Secretary of States all over the country, Republican ones, changing the length of voters, the ID. Look what's happening in Ohio. Look what's happening in Wisconsin. Look what's happening in Kansas. The Secretary of States are very influential over how elections are run, the actual logistics of it, and you're seeing lawsuits across the country.
Well, I think that they can have some flexibility with the established legislative rules, laws. But I don't think that they can just unilaterally go in and say, well, we're going to start having our elections on Wednesdays.
Why don't you look at what's happening in Ohio?
Well, this is Idaho. This is not Ohio.
Well, the point
This-
is they
the
are
big
very
difference is we
influential.
spell it Idaho, not
I understand. I've lived in both
OHIO.
states, but my point
You're-
is it's very influential,
Jill,
and that's why they're
you're
running for
welcome
those
to
positions.
go back to Ohio.
You know what? That's why they're
In
that
fact, I'll bet I could take up a collection to help you.
really nice. But you know what? When elections aren't fair, and that's what's happening, and that's what's happening across this country, and you think someone who's partisan like Denny, he's talking about fingerprinting people to prevent voter fraud.
Well, he might be thinking about it, but he's a long way from seeing that come to fruition, because the first thing that's going to happen is that the legislature is going to have to pass it, and the legislature is going to have to fund it, and I don't think he's got a snowball's chance on a hot August day.
But you have someone like that in there who you think is going to be nonpartisan when you got ideas like that?
But
and he was also behind the closed primary, which a lot of Republicans are angry about.
But
Well, okay, we're going to take a break, and then we'll be back right after this.
It's maybe a good thing we're taking a break.
This is Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX with Steve Millington with the Twin Falls Republicans. 7360300 is the number to call here on Top Story, and welcome back. And I just wanted to mention that with the irrigation season kind of coming to a close here for the 2014 growing season, get a hold of the folks at Far More of Idaho and ask them about infrared barren. Get it all set up for next year, because what they will do is fly over your field using infrared photography, take pictures of your crops, and then you can see how your irrigation system is operating, if it's working the way it should be or if it's not, and maybe you need to make some adjustments to the pivot. Maybe you need to do a little maintenance work. But this will really tell you a lot, and it's stuff that you can't see with a naked eye, because infrared photography is just one of those unique things that, well, you can't see it that way with your naked eyes. So get a hold of them, ask them about infrared barren, ask them what advantages it holds for you, ask them how much it costs and how much it will pay, and you will be surprised. That is Far More of Idaho, 324-3341, or at farmoreofidaho.com. I don't know, you talk to about anybody, and they'll say the last 50 years of operating the Secretary of State's office has been pretty much perfection. Both the candidates, the Republican and the Democrats, say that they want to maintain that legacy, and yet they want to improve things. So,
well, the first thing we have to figure out is what's broken.
Right.
That needs to be changed or improved. They talk about voter access and registration and these things, and the number of registered voters does not equal the number of votes cast. And so there's still a huge number of people out there who are registered to vote who do not. There's even a larger number of potential voters who do not register or vote. And so one of the things that they may be looking at is this apathy factor. Yeah. And how can we get more people involved in the voting process? If you don't vote, you can't complain.
Right, but then we had Lawrence Denny on the show, and he talked about eliminating absentee votes. Now, talking about, paring down, that's not going to help more people vote. Some people are invalids, some people are sick, some military.
Or people who are work and you can't get there. Requires them to travel a great deal. They need to have the opportunity for absentee ballots.
Right.
And that's a great... Now, I've only used an absentee ballot once. However, I do go to the courthouse on the pre-election process. Yeah. I just it's County West building, and go in and vote. No waiting lines. I can go in. I can vote. When I go to Twin to do errands, I drive right by the facility. I can just swing in there and vote and finish the rest of my errands. And that is, I think, better than going to the poll on election day, because there's always the risk of having to wait, and I'm not a good waiter.
Well, or something comes up at the last minute and you can't vote.
Or you get sick, or you get in a car accident, or you have a business trip.
I think, and we're seeing more and more emphasis nationwide to accommodate people in the voting process.
Wait, what? So, no, we see more efforts to not accommodate them.
Well, I think they are. Absentee ballots are a critical, essential part. Pre-ballot or pre-voting at the courthouse is another one. There are states that go to 100% mail-in ballots. I'm not sure I buy that one. I think security on that would be just a little bit on the tough side. But okay. So I think some of those things need to be reviewed and very carefully before they're implemented. And do we oftentimes get into a situation where somebody's trying to create sound bites that will gather voter attention to build up their position at the ballot? what's wrong?
Like fingerprinting
Like
people to vote?
The fingerprinting thing is just
That is ridiculous.
that's
How much
absurd.
would that absolutely cost? Ridiculous.
Besides which, that's absurd. That might be the time when I quit voting. I don't need to.
How would you get everyone's fingerprint in a registry?
Yeah, that's
How
what
are you going to get everyone in a registry?
That's exactly what it's after.
You can't even get people to. A lot of people don't want to get a concealed weapons permit because
they have to be fingerprinted.
That's right. So to get them to vote, I mean, that would be.
That could be that
so
much.
Would be
bordering on anarchy there, probably.
Yeah. That was a soundbite that I wish he, and I'll bet that he wishes that he had not made. So the problem is. They all say we're going to improve voter access and voter registration. Nobody has any real good step-by-step measures of how we're going to get that done.
Well, Holly Woodings was saying opening up primaries to independents because right now they get a nonpartisan ballot, but it's basically judges or some ballot issues. But, when you think the majority of voters that are registered in the state are independents, I know the Democratic primary is open to anyone. I know the Republican one isn't. You'd have to declare yourself.
Well, and that I think
that has created a lot of ire around here.
If I remember the way the closed ballot Republican primary, one of the things that happened was that the state Republican Party petitioned, and as the Idaho Supreme Court agreed that they could control how the primary election was conducted for Republican candidates. So Holly Woodings may make a lot of noise, but the first thing that would have to happen is that the Republican State Committee would have to petition the legislature and the courts to go back to an open primary, and I don't think Holly Woodings is going to unilaterally get that done of her own choice.
We got a caller. Top story. You're on the air with Steve Millington.
Good morning.
Good morning. Steve, you sounded fantastically empathetic towards people that don't vote or just their empathy not to vote. But it seems to me that I was reading a letter to the editor this morning on the Times News, and there was a lady that was frustrated with all this deals of not having open primaries and all that fun stuff. Plus, almost all the Republican states are passing laws to, barricade all the minorities from voting, making them jump through hoops.
Yeah.
And so I was just wondering, what do you think of what the founder of Paul Whitefish, I don't know what his name is, the founder of Heritage Foundation, that said he didn't want a lot of voters, because then that's when the Republicans lose. You want to explain that? How some people are doing all this to make people jump hoops in order to get.
It was it Jim DeMint? He's over Heritage Foundation now. Is that who you're talking about?
But that was not Jim DeMint.
Who
He's
the one who
talking
said
about
that?
the original.
Oh, that was the founder.
Oh, the founder.
The founder.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. It escapes me. Intellectual honesty, I do subscribe to most of the Heritage Foundation publications, and I get them on a regular basis. And Jim DeMint is the current guy. The previous chairman
was it Paul Weyrich, Edwin Fulner, and Joseph Kors? They were founded by those three guys in 73.
Edwin. What's his last name?
I don't know. Fulner, Fulner.
I don't know. Does it make any difference who founded it? I mean, what is the issue?
Fulner.
I think
the issue is if less people come out to vote, Republicans win.
That's a bad idea. The founders of our republic intended that we would have the opportunity to elect our leaders. And we have become much broader in scope over the past 200 years. We have a very, very interesting amalgamation of ethnicities and races, and they're all entitled to vote. And so to uniquely or purposely, prejudicially eliminate some element from voting is just wrong.
I'm glad you say that.
That's not the way that our republic was intended to be.
I don't see a closed primary in Idaho any different than I see the Republican National Convention or the Democratic National Convention.
Neither do I.
It's just on a statewide basis.
That's right.
So for a group of like-mindeds to get together and choose who they want to run, That's the American way. If
That's
the
right.
independents are pissed off about that, then let the independents get together
And put their own
have a
candidate.
convention and put their, like the libertarians do, and the Democrats say, well, we invite everybody. Well, and I understand that, and that's their prerogative. But what would happen if they got some closet conservative then that they put up for election, and then once he was elected showed his true colors? I mean, that could happen in the other. That's what these groups are designed to do.
That's right.
But then you just look at Lawrence Stanley was the one, advocating for that. You have to wonder how nonpartisan he is, and that's the old issue. But we
If
have
you
other
have questions, you vote for Hollywoodians.
Exactly.
And that's the American way. That's the way the ballot works.
But we have other questions for you, Steve.
We also have a caller. Top story. You're on the air. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Thanks for taking my call. You were talking a little bit ago about this idea of the fingerprinting and that. I think it's just asinine to even think of that. But I cannot understand why there's such a problem with having to show a proper ID. If the state's willing to spend the kind of money to do the fingerprinting thing, then I think they should be able to afford to, instead of doing that, give everybody an ID if they don't have one. Come into the courthouse, go to the licensing bureau, wherever, and get an ID. And if you don't have it when you go to vote, you're not going to vote, because this the dead people voting and all this, it's ridiculous. Everybody's allowed one vote, but in order to cast that vote, they should have to prove they are who that paper says they are.
But the thing of it is to limit what kind of ID you have. In North Carolina, they just passed laws where they'll take an NRA ID and not take a student ID. They have 3 colleges in North Carolina. They, things like that, where you're eliminating a group of people and imposing them to go somewhere else. It could be hours away to get an ID. If you're an elderly person, if you're someone else, looking in Ohio, what they're doing to those people in Ohio and how far they'd have to travel to get an ID like that. They're doing that on purpose to restrict some of those groups. We sign in, you have your signature. They know you signed in already. You try to vote twice in Idaho. Go ahead. They've had 31 cases over the states out of 1 billion votes of voter fraud. It is not a problem.
It's interesting that the liberal element, the statists, really grasp and hold on to the one-size-fits-all mentality. So if it's done in Ohio or North Carolina or Podunksville or Puerto Rico or who and the criminy knows where, by Gadfrey, that's the way it has to be in Idaho, because it's a one-size-fits-all world, and you dimwits had better get in line with everybody else or go straight to hit your button, Kelly. I'm going to swear. You go to hell.
You say that when you have the Republicans
we
following.
We don't need to do what Ohio does. This is Idaho. There's not been any fraud committed. We're doing fine. We don't have to do what everybody else does. We can exercise our choice and our independence.
What they're doing in Ohio is restricting their voter rights. No, we shouldn't do what they're doing in Ohio or in Texas, which was voted against.
Or North Carolina, everybody else. This is Idaho. We can do what we need and want to do right here.
That's what Republican Secretary of States are doing. But that's what Republican Secretary of States are doing across the country. Look at every Republican Secretary of State and governor, and they've changed the laws in those states to restrict voting. And they do it so they can lose. Look at them. Texas, the minute that civil rights,
what terrible, awful people they are.
You should look at it, and that's how they were trying to get Romney to win. You had that guy from Pennsylvania who said, "Oh, voter ID check. It's going to help Romney win. Limit the vote." Look what's going on. Don't act like you don't know what's going on. And you know what? The courts against
why do you act
Texas,
like you don't know what's going on?
What are you kidding me? That's their goal, is to limit voter restrictions.
Top story. You're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning.
You ought to know you can't argue with a politically handicapped female.
You know what? You are so insulting. I don't appreciate you calling me names like that. I have an opinion. You have an opinion. But please don't call in and call me names.
Yeah, that's the American way. No names, folks. No more names or I'll cut you off. Sorry, that's the way it's got to be.
Oh, you're saying that seriously, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. I thought for a second you were like sarcastic. I'm like, what?
If we want things to change in Washington and in Boise, you and I can argue vehemently back and forth.
We don't call each other names.
No, I don't call.
I know. Come on.
Yeah,
we even screamed, but we didn't resort to name calling, did we?
Okay, we're going to have a group hug after the...
No, we're not.
We always have a hug afterwards.
Okay, we're going to talk next hour about where we should put the new City Hall in Twin Falls, right here on Top Story. Thanks, Steve. We'll see you next week.
Steve.
You betcha.
And welcome back to Top Story. 7360300 is always the number to call. Welcome back, Jill.
Thanks, Cal.
Going to be another beautiful day. When I came in this morning at 5 o'clock, normally out on Poverty Flats, where I reside.
Is that a special section?
In my humble abode, there's usually a breeze in the morning, at least a breeze, if not a wind. But this morning, it was calm.
Perfection.
Man, it was just, you could have thrown up a handful of dust and it wouldn't have moved.
Yesterday afternoon was lovely.
It was.
Sitting out on some steps talking to my
This is some of the
sister-in-law.
nicest weather we've had this time of year in a long time.
Beautiful.
I think it was 2 years ago on October 10th, we had like 3 or 4 inches of snow.
Oh, my goodness.
And then it never snowed for the rest of the year, but we did have some snow.
We could say we had snow.
Yeah.
Use those snow plows
exactly. Now,
snow blowers we don't have or something.
Tomorrow morning, when you get up at 4:30 to see the lunar eclipse,
Oh, that's right.
it should be nice.
Should be really nice. I won't be doing that, but
that's the time
I'm going to take some time off.
It's perfect. That's right.
Yeah,
so
I don't plan to wake up at 4:30. It'd be nice if I could sleep until 7. Would be lovely. But yeah, so.
Yeah.
So everyone gets a break until next Wednesday when I return.
All right, boy. Well, Benito will be setting in for you.
Yeah, he will.
So, one of the big topics of conversation. A citizens committee is going to be formed last night to help choose a new city hall, apparently. The city has $10,000 down on an option to buy the former Banner Furniture Building at the corner of Main Avenue East and Hanson Street. It used to be 2nd Street. That's the way I remember it. I remember it as Main and 2nd instead
I remember
of Main
they changed
and Hanson.
all those streets when I lived here.
They did, and even to this day,
everyone was in chaos.
I could know they weren't. People knew how to get around.
They just never call it by the new name ever.
I am in chaos now because I don't know where Hanson Street is, but I did know where 2nd Street was because I could just count from Main Street.
Weren't there like
from
4 seconds or something?
But anyway, that's water under the bridge.
Just whatever.
Can't complain about that now.
No. Okay, so anyway.
Okay, so at any rate, one possibility, according to City Manager Travis Rothweiler, and I guess he will be with us on State of the City
tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right,
So ask him
good.
tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll have some good questions for him. Anyway, that the Banner Building on Main Street would be a good place for City Hall because, again, the city has put $10,000 down on it.
It's not the only amount they've put into it yet. I find it interesting. They're going to form a committee if they've put almost $30,000 into the building. They've put $10,000 to hold the building because that building has been empty for years. Everyone's wanted
want somebody to buy it out from under them.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. We tried to do a haunted house 2 years ago in the Banner Building, and it's still available, and we still can't do our haunted house. But $5,000 in structural review, $12,000 for an architect, and that's what they've invested so far. So I find it interesting that they have a committee to look for city halls when they've put almost $30,000 into this building. Have they put $30,000 into the other buildings? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Does this make sense to anyone, or is it pretty much we'll form a committee and justify, say we've opened it up to the public, but we've made the decision? That's what it sounds like to me. The other thing that I find is very interesting and confusing is we have OTAC is the consultants working on the revitalization of downtown. I went to one of their meetings, the first meeting they had. They're supposed to have more meetings mid-October, and I saw their presentation. They redo downtowns and cities all the time, and they've showed us all the cities they've done and this and that, and I'm thinking, well, why would the city, our city, do that is when OTAC hasn't come up with their plans yet? Is that part of their plans? Why? It seems weird. Like they were going to take 10 months to design our area. Why is our city council doing something. I mean, those are the experts, right? Isn't that why we hired them?
Oh, yeah. And you can't be an expert unless you're more than 30 miles out of town. So
And here's the other
that seems to be the
little
going rule.
beef I have about it, which I don't understand, is why. And I've lived many places.
Yes,
I
you
have
have.
lived.
Every
and-
time I talk to you almost, you come up with a new place that you live that I had no idea.
I'm the true wandering Jew,
You
I
are.
have to say.
You
But I
are.
have lived in big cities too and small cities. I've lived in Boston. I've lived in Dallas. I've lived in Columbus, Ohio. I've lived in Cleveland, Ohio. I lived in Toledo, Ohio.
Gosh, how old are you again?
Yeah, well, we're never discussing that. But the point of it is I've never really seen a city hall on a main street. You know, it's usually Boston. It's like in the government
I don't think that's that
center.
unusual.
Well, in all the cities I've lived in, I've never. But the thing of it is, the reason you probably don't. I've lived in Manayunk in Philadelphia, which used to be an old coal mining town, and the main street was filled with and same with Newberry Street in Boston, which is like their nicest street. I think our main street is our nicest street. Is that you have, restaurants, you have retail, you have shops, you have art galleries. Those are things that bring people down to downtown. When you have an office building, and it happens with the banks downtown and even it happened in Ketchum now, or Sunbelt in Ketchum. You have buildings that close at 5 o'clock and aren't open on weekends. So when I lived in Dallas, long time ago, I used to work downtown, and we would all leave downtown. It would be a ghost town because there's nothing to come downtown for. When you start, you know what I'm saying?
But there's been nothing in the Banner Building for years, though.
But since
to be honest,
I know. But if you're redoing Main Street, why not? It might attract places that we've had more restaurants brought to downtown. You see a difference in downtown lunch traffic and dinner traffic. And I just think to put in an office building that closes at 5 and is closed on weekends for your main real estate, I think, on your best street in downtown, doesn't make sense to me.
Well, if I were to give input to the city, and
everyone can, they're opening the committee, even though they put $30,000 down on the ballot.
And I don't know. I'm kind of coming from a position of ignorance here. I don't know everything there is to know about this. But just as kind of an outsider looking in, there are two things that concern me. One is the age of the building, and what will they find?
Well,
and
they're looking at it, yeah.
And two, where are they going to park all these people? I mean, there's already parking issues in downtown Twin now.
And if you're a vendor or a shop owner or a restaurant.
Right, exactly.
I think they said they had over 200 people that were going to be. I don't even know how that building could hold it, honestly. I've looked at the Banner Building inside and out for the haunted house.
Yeah. Well, let's see
I don't know.
Let's
What
see
do you guys think?
what you think. 7360300 top story. You are on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. I just going to throw and I worked at the for Banner Furniture, 15, 20 years ago, and was in that building a considerable amount of time.
Yeah.
And the two big problems: A, parking, like was just mentioned, and that's a huge problem. The only parking they have is what is on Main Street and then behind Banner, which is shared by all the other businesses down there. Less parking than is what at the current City Hall now. Two, the inside is done for. I mean, they're going to have to gut that thing.
Yeah.
It was in bad shape when Banner was there.
Do you think it could hold 200 people?
And not only that, why are we still not talking about the county trying to give us the building downtown now? And not wait. I mean, this seems like utter stupidity. That our city council is not saying, here's something free.
Yeah.
Versus they're putting more money into the Banner building.
Then they'd have to get the clinic building.
Yeah. The clinic was free.
Well, and hopefully some of these questions will be answered tomorrow with Travis Rothweiler, because I'm sure they all have valid and legitimate answers. We're just, from the outside looking in here.
But to me, if you're going to have a true citizens committee, why would you put almost $30,000 of taxpayer dollars into a Banner building and then say, why have a committee?
Yeah.
I don't get that.
The decision has already been made.
Because that money's lost, and even the $10,000 in earnest money is lost. It's taxpayer dollars.
7360300 top story. You're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning, Jill. How are you this morning?
I'm great. How are you?
This is Gary from Pieces of Heaven Cupcakery.
Gary, how are you?
Well, concerning what you guys are already talking about, we're kind of a little bit upset. I've just got a couple things, and then I'm going to let you guys
That's
go.
okay.
But
Go ahead.
OTEC, we went to that meeting, the first meeting they had when OTEC showed up.
Yeah.
When they divided up in the groups at everybody's table, one of the biggest kickers that they were trying to push was parking. They were talking about wanting to put a parking garage downtown. And the sole purpose of that parking garage was to make it easier and better for everybody to have places to park. Well, that was fine when everybody was saying, well, we can put parking garage here or we can put a parking garage there. But the Rogerson complex, that area is where they were really, really, really pushing hard to go ahead and put that parking garage.
That's where you have your building, your office, your
Part
shop.
number 2 was just that, yes. Part number 2 is just that. Because that building was purchased, they're tearing that building down. Nobody wants to admit it outright, but the way that they're going about trying to say that they're tearing it down is by saying it's going to cost too much to be able to upgrade that building, to keep offices or even stores inside that building. So as a result, the 2 people that have shops in that building have to be out by the end of the month.
Oh.
So
You have to be out by October 31st?
October 31st, 1st of November is what we had no choice but to sign a contract agreeing to.
And they're going to make that a parking garage right on Main Street, a parking garage?
They won't outright admit that's what they want to do, but they kept saying that it's going to cost way too much money for them to do anything other than tear it down.
Why? I mean, isn't that is that a historical building here?
It's no longer considered a historical building because the top floor is not historical.
Oh, really? What they do? Rejuvenated it or something? Or?
Renovated?
If you come into my shop and I turn right around and lift those false panels that are on our ceiling,
Yeah.
and you look up, you will see everything that was originally there from the original building. All the artwork that's on that building, all the molding that went into that building, everything is all still there. I've been up in that little attic crawl space.
So where are you supposed to go, Gary?
We are still trying to find a place, and we're hoping that we're going to be able to find one.
Are you looking for downtown or just anywhere?
Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to stay downtown. There's no place downtown big enough to be able to take us.
What I'm sorry for my ignorance. What business do you have again?
We have a cupcakery shop. We do
okay.
cupcakes, cakes, birthdays, weddings, anniversaries, you name it.
Pieces of Cupcakery. They do a great job.
Wow.
And, here you're a business who wants to bring, and you do bring people downtown.
We
and then
do.
they're going to get rid of you. And who's the one next to you?
It was called the Toy Orphanage. She got really lucky. There was a big space right across the street next to Moose Hill, and she got into that space. But it's costing her an arm and a leg to be in there.
Oh, interesting stuff.
Gary,
thanks for the input. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you guys very much.
Hang in there, Gary.
You guys keep the work up that you guys are both doing on stuff like this, because there's nobody else out there that wants to talk about it or bring it up.
Gotta go, Gary. Thank you. 7360300 is the number to call here this morning on Top Story. Welcome back. Yesterday's $100 instant winning name, and by the way, we have a new sponsor for the word of the day.
Who is it?
It's the Happy Landing Restaurant.
Oh, you only go there every week?
Several times a week, sometimes.
Nice. Happy Landing, welcome.
And if you want to watch football in the afternoons, they have $2 drink specials on Sunday afternoons at the Happy Landing. It's at the airport. You might think that you have to
fly somewhere.
be flying somewhere in order to eat there, but that's not the case.
No.
I eat there all the time, and I hardly ever fly. So what is that?
That's true, but it is a nice little atmosphere. It's lovely, and they have good food, right?
Oh,
you like
man.
their food?
Oh, yeah. Most of it's homemade. Anyway, I digress. They're the new sponsor for Word of the Day, and today's Word of the Day, actually today's...
Wait, what?
Today's winning name... I got to do this from the beginning or I'm going to get all messed up. Steve Tanguy. I hope I'm pronounced that correctly.
Steve Tanguy. Congratulations. How do you spell it?
Tanguy, just like Tan Guy.
Oh,
Tanguy.
Steve Tanguy. Congratulations.
And your $100 word of the day for today is Dracula.
Dracula. They're going to run out of haunty, creepy words by October 31st.
I don't know. There's a lot of creepy words.
Dracula. How do you spell Dracula, Kelly?
D-R-A-C-U-L-A. Dracula.
Dracula.
Just like it sounds. So go to our website at
Just like it
newsradio1310.com. Click on Word of the Day. Type in Dracula.
Dracula.
And listen tomorrow. If you hear your name tomorrow and you play the word today, you win $100.
That's how easy that one is.
Okay, so apparently from the previous caller who has a business in the old Rogerson Hotel, which apparently they want to tear down to build a parking garage in downtown Twin Falls.
Right on Main Street.
I would say, and I don't know how practical this is, I'm just a poor dumb farm boy. Why not build, if you want to build a parking garage, build it on the site of the current parking lot and increase that capacity from rather than just
the one
having,
behind the Rogerson?
Yeah, the one behind the Banner Building.
Oh, the Banner Building.
I believe there's a parking lot behind there. And it's not very big, but if you could build one there, you wouldn't have to tear anything down. You wouldn't have to displace any businesses. And you could put it in a spot where there's already parking, and you could just increase the parking. You could go up, I don't know, 3 or 4 stories, I suppose, if you wanted to.
You know, and to say that a building is too old to renovate, I mean, do they ever watch HGTV? I'm sorry. Nicole Curtis renovates 1800, 1900-year-old homes. I mean, that's part of the beauty of Twin. I don't understand this place.
I don't know what the codes are, and I don't know what the practicalities are. I know when you're talking about commercial buildings, there's a whole different set of rules than there is when you're just renovating a house. And I don't know if sometimes it costs twice as much to renovate something as it does to tear it down and rebuild it. I don't know. I'm just thinking that I am sad that we tore down the old Perrine Hotel.
Yeah, everyone talks about that.
That would have been would have been a beautiful showcase for tourism, for downtown, for crying out loud. Now we got an old modern bank building there, you know?
But if you go to Park City, they don't tear anything down. Everything is, I mean, you could have a little part of the house, you could have a part of a building, it's still historical.
And I understand having to modernize and get rid of old stuff once in a while to make way for things, but
a parking garage instead of, and now you're displacing pieces of cupcakery, you know, in another business. But, you know, there's so many places. I mean, Glambia is down in really our warehouse district, if you call it that. Why not do a city hall there? You got parking, you got city hall. I mean, I just think, honestly, when you bring in businesses that close at 5 o'clock and aren't open on weekends, that doesn't draw anyone to downtown. And when I lived in Dallas, I worked downtown in Dallas for a law firm. They had a lot of law firms. They have a lot of businesses. 5 o'clock, that place was a ghost town because nothing's down there. That's not how you build a downtown. You have to have areas that people go to. Boston, my gosh, Newberry Street. Do you think they'd put City Hall on Newberry Street? No. You have restaurants, you have shops, you have, gift stores, art galleries.
Well, let's take a call.
Come on.
Oh, they see there.
Sorry,
you
call
talked
back.
so long.
Sorry,
they
call
gave
back.
up.
Call back.
It's all your fault.
Sorry, call back. But
right.
I didn't know we had a caller. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I should have said.
Anyway,
something.
it.
Okay, they're calling back.
Okay, call
I knew
back.
they would. 736-0300. Top story. You're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, well, name a business that is in downtown Twin Falls that's open after 5. I mean, other than Slice and the pizza company.
What, downtown?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you have the Ground Round down there. You have some of the clothing shops. You have Hands On is open. You have Jensen Jewelers. You have O'Duncan's. You have the Brass Monkey. Now we're gonna have the theater. You have Rudy's.
Closes at 5. They're open on Saturdays, but most of the businesses downtown closes around 5 o'clock. I mean, I work downtown, so it's like it's pretty dead down here. And the building that they're tearing down is pretty much a blight. I mean, it's and same thing with the Banner Building. I don't know why we're trying to save it. I think that they should level a few buildings downtown and put some nice condos in or something like that. If you really want to rebuild downtown Twin to where it's at, you got to have places for people to live. There's one guy who built a really nice apartment above his business downtown, and it's really cool. But I think if you put some living space down here, remodeled some of those apartments that are above some of those businesses, it would probably do more to revitalize than this other stuff. But that old Ivy Prime building is really, really in bad shape. I mean, it should be leveled.
Apparently there are businesses in there, and those guys are doing okay.
Well, I don't know. Interesting stuff.
Try to do a haunted house in the Banner Building. You can't.
We'll be right back on Top Story. 736-0300, the number to call here on Top Story, as always. The folks at Canyon Pond, who are on Shoshone Street and 3rd Avenue South, want you to stop by because they've got the newest pawn shop in town, right across from Will's Toyota. And they've got camping stuff. Well, you know, it's kind of dumb, I guess, for me to list everything they have because it's a pawn shop.
Right.
Pawn shops have just about anything you can imagine. Do you watch Pawn Stars?
I don't.
Don't you watch
sorry.
Pawn Stars?
Do I seem like I would watch Pawn Stars? No, I've never even been into a pawn shop. No.
Oh wow, you'll have to go into it.
We
They're
have
just
to
a
go
fun place
when I get back. We'll go to lunch and go. Okay?
That's a promise. That's a promise.
Okay.
But Dave Hansen and the crew want you to come in, see what they've got. They're locally owned. They got brand new and used items. They got a lot of miscellaneous stuff. They got fishing poles. They got tools. They got recreational equipment. I drive by there, I see some bicycles sitting out front. I see a little four-wheeler out front every once in a while. And I know they got loads and loads of guns. So, you know, everybody around here loves guns. So at least stop in and see what he's got. They are open every day, and they want you to just stop by and say hi.
I know. They got new stuff every day.
They do. That's kind of the nature of a pawn shop.
I guess so.
You go today and you don't see anything that you're interested in, try tomorrow. They probably will.
I know.
They're online at canyonpawn.com. You can also give them a call. I got the number right here, 933-2600. Say, Dave.
See, there you go.
Do you have such and such in stock?
And they say, come on down.
Come on down.
And you can also donate stuff too, right? To pawn off, right? I mean, you bring your stuff in.
Well, you don't donate.
I mean, they say you buy. They buy
take
it from
in.
you.
They give you a few. They give you some money.
They look at it
and then they hold it for you. And then when you go back, you can pay to get it back. And if you don't come back in a certain time, then they put it up for sale.
Then they sell it. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how that works. Okay.
Okay, so anyway, regarding the downtown and the public hearings, and we will have Travis Rothweiler, Twin Falls City Manager Travis Rothweiler, on tomorrow, and I'm sure he'll be able to clear up a lot of these questions we have at 9 o'clock. But there is when is the public hearing, Jill?
I think they said it was the 22nd starting. Oh, well, it was supposed to be the Citizens Committee. I think it's the 22nd, I heard.
Yeah,
is that in the article?
No, it's not.
Maybe I read that.
Well,
in
we'll
the
find that out
Times
tomorrow
News
too. Then.
Anyway, I think it's the 22nd, the Citizens Committee, and then the 23rd, and then another time. But it just seems a little odd to me to have a Citizens Committee when you've put almost $30,000 down on one building. That doesn't make sense to me.
Well,
I don't care what.
Yeah.
I mean, that just doesn't. It seems like nothing should be committed if you have a Citizens Committee. Does it? I mean, does that?
I don't know how things work today. I know that you got to have engineering studies to make sure it's even feasible, and that stuff costs money, and that's stuff that you don't get money back on.
So are they doing that on all the buildings?
As far as I don't know, and as far as the $10,000 to hold it, if you don't buy it, I think you get that back. I'm not sure.
No, you don't. You lose it if you don't sign by a certain time.
Oh, okay. Well, then
so the taxpayers are going to lose the $10,000.
There you go.
But not to mention, apparently they've already done the structural for $5,000, the architect for $12,000, and $10,000 to hold the building because people were just trying to buy that one up, right and left.
I don't know.
I'm sorry, but when people are considering it as a haunted house, how many people? I mean, it's been a great building. It's been there for a long time, and I'm sure it's got a lot of stuff to renovate that one.
I remember that building when it was C.C. Anderson's.
Hey.
It was C.C. Anderson's when I was a young boy. Right as I sit here talking about this, I can remember going into that. They sold clothing. I can remember going into that building with my mom when I was just a little kid. Same building. So it's been around a while.
So how long has that been? I mean, how does
does
that not cost a lot to renovate?
You would think. 736-0300. Top story. You're on the air. Good morning.
Hey, morning. It's Carl, your favorite commodity driver.
Hey,
Carl. How are you, buddy?
Hey, what's going on?
Well, we're just talking about downtown. What's going on with you?
Well, I'm just feeding some cattle. But it sounds to me like they've already bought the building.
It sort of does.
At least planning on it, doesn't it?
Nah, they're going to get it. Why would you put all that money down, unless you're going to have already, the Citizens Committee meeting, that's just, I don't know, that's just a political type of deal. Look, here we are, we're going to ask your guys' opinion, but if you've already put, in my calculations, about 30,000 in it already, huh?
Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
I know. It's
that's
a little
right.
perplexing, isn't it, Carl?
It's just, if that's why I don't do the money situation in my house, because that's how I spend it. That's why my wife takes care of all the money.
Carl, well, call in tomorrow. You can ask Travis. He'll be here at 9 o'clock.
Okay, I sure will.
Be careful
All
driving. Thanks for calling,
You guys
Carl.
have a great day.
You too. Thanks
Bye.
for calling.
Carl.
Oh, poor Travis. I guess he'll have his plate full tomorrow when he gets here.
I'm sorry, but
That's
they
why
work
he
for
makes the big bucks.
They work for, and he makes big bucks. They work for the taxpayers.
That's
sorry,
right.
It's
That's
taxpayer money.
absolutely right.
You know, think
Yeah.
about it.
We'll be right back here on Top Story. 736-0300. 736-0300 is the number to call. There's another number to call. I'm going to give you another number to call. Maybe you are considering a low-end honey loader
Maybe.
from Stanley and Company. If you have a big feedlot or dairy operation, lots of livestock, you may want one of these. It loads all types of manure, liquid, frozen, dry, fast loading up to 7 miles per hour, and a fast unloading rear hydraulic gate. One pass down the lane, and the manure is picked up. It's gone. It's done. It's out of there. So if you want to see one of these in operation, call Pat Hartzell with Stanley and Company. He can set you up with an appointment to one of these feedlot or dairy operations in the area that has purchased one that uses it. You can go there and see it actually in real-time operation.
That's right.
Actually, you could probably go to YouTube, too, and type in low-end honey loader and probably see one in operation. But there's just nothing like getting right up close where you can kick the tires and actually, smell it. So
you can smell it all right.
give him a call at 280-1167. That's 280-1167. Pat Hartzell with Stanley and Company. He can not only fix it up so you can see one, he can sell you one.
That's right. That's how easy that is.
He's a pretty big guy on campus.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So tell us about your
my little
story.
Well, I saw this story, and I thought, wow, what would you do? An Ohio woman, and of course, I'm originally from Ohio. Thank you very much. I don't know the difference between Ohio and Idaho. I certainly do. Anyway, an Ohio woman who sued a sperm bank after it mixed up donors and gave her sperm from an African-American man instead of the white one she and her partner selected, said Wednesday that the family is simply trying to get compensation to deal with a situation they weren't prepared to handle. You don't think about that, do you? A screw up with the sperm bank.
I never thought about that.
And I had a friend who went through a sperm bank, and they go through, you read the bios, you read this, they're a doctor, you read that. My dad in medical school, they used to all donate their sperm because everyone wanted sperm from a doctor. That's how they'd make money.
Wow.
So they were so poor. How gross is that? Think about
Nobody
this.
wants one from a radio announcer.
Think about that. I could be marrying my half brother or sister.
Exactly.
Scary. Anyway,
Yes.
You made me think about that a little bit ago. But anyway, Jennifer Cramblett, 36, made headlines this week after she filed a lawsuit against the Chicago area Midwest Sperm Bank for wrongful birth and breach of warranty. Cramblett told the Huffington Post in a phone interview that she and her partner, Amanda Zinkon, wanted their child to bear some resemblance to them, particularly Zinkon, who would not be carrying the baby. After hours spent poring over sperm donor profiles, and I can attest to that, they do, they found a donor with blonde hair and blue eyes who looked like he shared heritage with Zinkon, but they didn't get the sperm they ordered. So anyway,
wow.
She spoke with her lawyer present and said that while it's true she and Zinkon didn't plan on a mixed-race child, I would never, ever take that away. We love her. She's a dream come true. The child's 2 years old now, but...
this didn't just happen. This happened a while back then.
Mm-hmm. But...
and they're just now deciding that they want to sue?
Well, sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes you don't know. I don't know what happened in their process, but we love her. She's a dream come true. Cramblett said of her 2-year-old daughter, Peyton, for people to think I don't want this child because of her skin tone is just not the case. It angers me that people would even think I don't want my child. But because Peyton isn't completely white, Cramblett said the family will have to move away from their current home in Uniontown, Ohio. I'm not sure exactly where that is.
Why?
A place she described as white, conservative, and too racially intolerant. This isn't LA or New York. We're not on the coast. We're in farm country. Cramblett said. That raises my concerns for Peyton. Being a lesbian growing up in a small town, I went through a lot of things that were hard on me. I don't want her to have to go through that too. Cramblett said a friend has spoken with her about his experience as a black child who was adopted by 2 white parents. Her friend felt out of place in his all-white community. I don't blame him. And at 9 years old, he was praying to be white so he could fit in. Ugh. She's worried Peyton will have a similar experience if the family doesn't move. It sucks, she says. Gramblant listed several other issues the family has encountered because Peyton is half black. I want her to feel very connected to all parts that make up who she is. I'm not able to give her the part of that part of heritage.
So the lawsuit then is to help them, like, maybe relocate.
Probably they have caused. They
handle
just have
some of the issues that they see that was caused by this.
Yes, their compensation for costs of relocating to a new town and counseling.
So this is going to a jury?
I'm not sure. They also want to make sure the one mistake that should never be made at a sperm bank isn't made again. So
there's no guarantee on that. Even a lawsuit can't guarantee that.
No, and remember the one doctor who was donating all of his own sperm to these people? Remember that nightmare?
Oh, yeah.
And remember, this is terrible, but what he looked like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. What a nightmare. What would you do, though? I mean, this is a huge, because you've carried the baby and then you deliver this baby and you're like,
obviously the sperm bank messed up.
Well, yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about it. First of all, she didn't have sex with someone.
Regardless of the issues that it caused, they messed up. There's no getting around that. So I suppose there should be some at least remuneration there, if nothing else.
Oh, yeah, but now, and you have to see, in areas that are not as diverse, even in Idaho, I'm sure it'd be very tough to raise an African-American baby here. People look at you. You don't have a lot of diversity here.
I don't know. Actually, now that you mention that, I have seen that around town. I have seen white parents with minority babies, and but I think it's great.
It's not a lot.
But it would be interesting to talk to them to see
if they feel like the other one. I want to pray to be white to fit in.
Yeah, it would be. Here's the Huckabee Report. You can hear the Huckabee Report each weekday at this time, brought to you exclusively by Waddell & Reed, Laura Nelson, Josh Funk, and Steve Stanger, financial advisors. And the number is 736-6563.
That's right. Well, Cal, I'm not going to see you for a week.
I know. You're taking a few days off.
Taking some days off. It'd be nice to sleep in a little.
Got
7
some
o'clock.
Stuff around here you got to do.
I got to do.
Go to meetings and meet people and
promote books.
Things
like that. Please, people, my book. Anyway, but so I'll be back next Wednesday. So you'll have a break. But tomorrow you're going to have Representative Mike Simpson on.
Yes, and he will be here in the studio.
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
You got Travis Rothweiler at 9 o'clock.
Yep.
I think all of our listeners might be primed for a few questions or two. Not sure. Do yourself proud. And, ask questions.
And if Travis is listening, he'll come prepared with answers to the questions that he heard today.
All valid questions.
Absolutely.
I think it makes everyone think. So anyway, and then that's it. And then Thursday we have Kelton Hatch. Friday we have Tom Mikesell. We had Leon Mills Monday at 9, and we're gonna have Tom Mikesell Friday at 9. And then we have a magician at 8:30. I think they're gonna have some card interaction that you were supposed to kind of arrange ahead of time.
Oh,
Remember that?
I probably should do that, huh?
You think? It was something about that. And it looks like you have Governor Otter on Monday. Did you schedule all these people so I couldn't be here?
Governor Otter is tentative right now. I just put it down there so that I would hold the place.
Are you booking all these people so I can't ask them questions?
No.
Come on.
Just that, hey,
Come on.
if you're going to leave,
let me at them.
It's not my fault.
Come on.
So
anyway, well, it's always interesting. So just call in and ask questions.
And you need to also sign up for a chance to have lunch with Jill and me at the Canyon Crest Dining and Event Center and a ride in the limousine. Now, to do that, you go to our website, newsradio1310.com, click on Win Lunch with Kelly and Jill, and put in your information. And then at the end of the month, actually the first part of the next month, then we pull a winner out of the hat.
That's right. And we're going to go to lunch, I think, the 24th, Friday the 24th.
That's right.
So that should be a lot of fun.
It will be.
Another and the weather should be spectacular.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what. This is,
you
can't ask for any better weather. Now, I want to remind you, too, if you're kind of into eclipses and stuff like that.
Yes.
Tomorrow morning early, if you get up around 4:30, then you won't miss it. It is a total lunar eclipse of the blood moon. And it will reach its maximum, I believe, just before 5.
Right.
I think at 4:54, and it ends at 5:45.
You might have to come to work a little early to catch it.
Yeah, or late.
Or late. Probably late.
Yeah. So, hey, thanks for joining us today. We'll see you tomorrow right here on Top Story.
See
Goodbye,
you next
Jill.
week. Bye, Cal.